The chief diplomats of South Korea and the U.S. met in Seoul today and spoke about joint actions against Russia sharing military technology with North Korea in return for arms transfers. A state-run think tank projects the Korean economy to expand by 2.2% next year, a little lower than its earlier projection as exports slowly recover amid weak domestic demand. Israel says Hamas has lost control of North Gaza, adding that it has destroyed a host of related facilities. This is prompting thousands of Palestinians to flee. It's November 9th, 2023. This is News Center.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. South Korean Foreign Minister Park Jin and his U.S. counterpart Antony Blinken held a meeting here in Seoul for a wide range of talks, including North Korea, economic security, and global matters. For more, we have our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji on the line. Eun-ji, tell us what they had to say on North Korea's deepening military ties with Russia.
Well, Jung-min, after arriving in South Korea last night, Blinken sat down for talks with Seoul's foreign minister this afternoon. The meeting went on for a little more than an hour, and they addressed a wide range of issues, especially the growing concerns about North Korea's arms cooperation with Russia. In a joint press conference afterward, Blinken explained that the U.S. is seeing a two-way street when it comes to ties between Pyongyang and Moscow. He said the U.S. is seeing North Korea provide military equipment to Russia for pursuing its aggression in Ukraine, and that they're also seeing Russia provide technology and support for the North for its own military programs. He stressed the importance of China's role in pulling North Korea back from what he called the regime's irresponsible and dangerous behavior. He explained that China has real influence on North Korea as a result of its unique relationship with the North, and said they look to China to use that influence. Seoul Foreign Minister Park Jin also said Seoul and Washington will work together to call on China to play its role to make sure this kind of dangerous deal between Pyongyang and Moscow does not happen. He added that it will not be beneficial to China's national interests if tensions in the East Asia region continue to escalate due to arms cooperation between Russia and North Korea.
Right, and I hear Blinken also met President Yoon at the top office.
That's right. Ahead of his meeting with Park, Blinken met President Yoon over lunch. Yoon said now is a time when U.S. leadership is becoming increasingly important due to instability in the Middle East, along with the issue of North Korea and the war in Ukraine, and vowed to work closely with Washington. In response, Blinken said U.S. foreign policy remains focused on the Indo-Pacific region, and that Washington intends to further strengthen its strategic partnership with Seoul. Earlier in the day, the top U.S. diplomat also met South Korea's National Security Advisor Cho Tae-yong, where they strongly condemned the North for providing military equipment to Russia. Blinken plans to head to India after wrapping up his trip to Seoul. That's all I have for now this hour. Back to you, Jung-min.
Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji, thank you. The security chiefs of Seoul and Washington have agreed to push for a three-way meeting with their Japanese counterpart before the year is up, as well as begin bilateral dialogue on key technologies. The presidential office said Thursday that National Security Advisor Cho Tae-yong held a phone call with his U.S. counterpart Jake Sullivan earlier in the day, following up on fostering trilateral cooperation with Tokyo amid North Korea's nuclear threat and other challenges to regional and economic security. The two officials said they would aim to hold a trilateral meeting of security advisors within the year and hold the first meeting of Seoul and Washington's dialogue for next generation emerging and core technology, as agreed by their leaders in April. They also pledged to strengthen economic cooperation ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit kicking off in San Francisco next week. The defense chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. are meeting early next week in Seoul for their annual bilateral security talks. Their key focus is on ramping up Washington's extended deterrence against North Korea's evolving provocations. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
South Korea and the U.S. are holding their 55th Security Consultative meeting next Monday in Seoul. The Defense Ministry on Thursday said talks between South Korea's Defense Minister Shin Won-sik and his U.S. counterpart Lloyd Austin will be focused on developing the Seoul-Washington alliance into one of the world's best. A Defense Ministry official highlighted the significance, saying that it is the first SCM after the Yoon-Biden summit, as well as the Camp David trilateral summit with Japan held this year. The two ministers are set to discuss ways to ramp up Washington's extended deterrence against North Korea's provocations and strengthen cooperation in defense science and technology. The following day, Shin and Austin will also attend the defense ministerial meeting in Seoul between South Korea and the 17 United Nations Command member states. Seoul's defense ministry said the participating countries will urge North Korea to stop its unlawful activities, abide by UN Security Council resolutions, and adopt a joint declaration calling for a collective response at times of emergency on the Korean peninsula. The ministry said it would also discuss ways to cooperate with the UN command.
Our military is continuously strengthening cooperation with the UN command to deter war and maintain peace on the Korean peninsula. In that regard, we are currently discussing ways for the Korean military to take part in the UN command's general staff. However, nothing is currently set on the scale or which position.
On the occasion of Austin's visit to South Korea, defense ministers of Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo are widely anticipated to hold a three-way meeting as well to discuss trilateral security cooperation, possibly including the sharing of real-time data of Pyongyang's missile launches. Choi Min-jang, Arirang News.
Israeli forces say Hamas has lost control of northern Gaza, prompting thousands of Palestinians to flee. The U.S. continues to seek a humanitarian pause for hostages to be released. Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
According to Israel's military spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, during a televised briefing on Wednesday, Hamas has lost control of northern Gaza as thousands of Gazans have moved south. The spokesperson said some 50,000 Palestinians moved from the northern Gaza Strip to the south, adding that they're moving because they understand that Hamas has lost control in the north. While Hagari reiterated the government's stance that there will be no ceasefire, he said Israel has been allowing humanitarian pauses at specific times to allow Gazans to relocate south. In a press release also on Wednesday, the Israel Defense Forces claimed it had destroyed 130 Hamas tunnel shafts as it continues with its air and ground operations in Gaza. According to the statement, combat engineers fighting in Gaza are destroying Hamas's weapons and are locating, exposing, and detonating tunnel shafts. Meanwhile, the U.S. is closely discussing with Israel and Qatar a proposal for a pause in fighting in Gaza of up to 3 days, which will allow the delivery of more humanitarian aid and the possible release of some hostages held by Hamas. While Israel has made it clear that a humanitarian ceasefire would only come if the Palestinian militant group releases all 240 hostages, a senior Arab source familiar with the discussions said there was hope that a deal could still be reached, adding that the parties involved are at a critical stage of the negotiations. A diplomat briefed on the matter said that a pause of 1 to 3 days could allow the release of 10 to 15 hostages and also give Hamas time to gather information of the identities and locations of all the hostages in order to secure the release of dozens more. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Korea Development Institute forecasts the South Korean economy to expand by 2.2% next year, a little lower than its earlier projection as exports slowly recover amid weak domestic demand. An Sung-jin takes a closer look.
The nation's economic think tank, the Korea Development Institute, has forecast South Korea's GDP to grow by 2.2% in 2024. That is a 0.8 percentage point increase from 2023's expected economic growth. However, this is a 0.1 percentage point slash from August's projection for both 2023 and 2024. The KDI releases its annual economic outlook reports in May and November, though this year it published 2 additional forecasts in February and August to reflect the rapidly changing economic conditions. The report released on Thursday noted that the expected increase in economic growth for next year is largely attributed to a base effect caused by the low growth this year, as well as a recovery in exports. Forecasts for consumer inflation increased by 0.1 percentage point from August's forecast for both 2023 and 2024. November's report showed a rise in expected consumer inflation. It also showed a slowdown in domestic demand as high interest rates hit spending and infrastructure investment.
High interest rates tend to have a greater negative impact on goods consumption, and this is showing in the recent Korean economy. Despite this, the semiconductor industry, which accounts for a high proportion of Korea's exports, is recovering from the economic downturn, gradually pulling up the overall economic trend.
The think tank suggested that it will be necessary to tighten fiscal policies to ensure price stability, while emphasizing long-term financial stability and managing the impact of South Korea's aging society.
There is a need to promote structural reform throughout the economy to cater to rapid demographic changes and intensifying global market competition with technological advancements in countries such as China.
However, the report also warned of a potential delay in the economic recovery as global oil prices may surge amid the conflict between Israel and Hamas. It also noted that if China's real estate market plummets, hindering its financial stability, this may lead to decreased investment in Korea. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
The government has started operating a special price stabilization system that will be run by all related ministries. That's according to Vice Finance Minister Kim Byung-hwan during a meeting on inflation today, adding that monitoring and stabilizing prices will be managed at a vice ministerial level for a list of products that each ministry is responsible for. Ministries will also create on-site teams for a swift response to keep prices in check. The officials said there are signs of stabilization as oil prices have declined for 4 weeks in a row, while agricultural prices are also settling down. But he added the government will continue to keep an eye on all prices nationwide. South Korea's International Press Awards, the Hinzpeter Awards, honor journalists devoted to telling stories of truth through a camera lens, named after a German journalist who reported the May 18th pro-democracy movement decades ago. This year, the top prize was given to 4 video journalists who covered the opposition movements facing Russia's Vladimir Putin regime in the wake of its war in Ukraine. Song Yoo-jin reports.
These works have been recognized for their remarkable documentation of history from the front lines. They are the winners of this year's Hinzpeter Awards. Named after German video journalist Jürgen Hinzpeter, who filmed and reported South Korea's May 18th democratization movement, these awards celebrate video journalists dedicated to truth, human rights, and justice.
It often feels like we focus solely on the casualties and negotiations of the Russian-Ukraine war. This year's projects shed light on the voices opposing the war and have effectively portrayed the suffering of countless civilians impacted by the conflict.
The top prize, the World at a Crossroads Award, was given to the documentary Inside Russia, Putin's War at Home. It was made by a team of 4 video journalists who risked imprisonment as they covered domestic criticism of the Vladimir Putin regime, the opposition movements against the Ukraine war, and the demand for press freedom and free expression.
Sometimes your voice can be not heard, and it can be very lonely and isolating. But it's still worth it to stand by what you believe and stand for the democratic values.
The Battle of Bakhmut, the winner in the news category, shows what life is like in one of Ukraine's most dangerous battlegrounds. The 3 journalists capture the harsh realities of war through the lives of Ukrainian soldiers and civilians during their 2-week stay in the city.
When something is that dire, when the situation is that dangerous, I think that's, when journalism comes in, and that's some of the times it's most important for us to be there to show the reality of what's happening.
The award for features went to Russian soft power in the CAR, where 2 journalists carried on the works of their colleagues who lost their lives while investigating the Wagner mercenary group in the Central African Republic 5 years ago. Just like Hinzpeter, these visual storytellers continue to illuminate the untold stories of our time, ensuring that the voiceless are heard and the world bears witness to their struggles. 송유진, Arirang News.
The Korea Science and Technology Fair 2023 kicked off its 4-day event starting from today. There, you can get a chance to explore indigenous space technology from Korea's lunar orbiter Danuri to space rocket Nuri, as well as quantum computers and much more. Hinzpeter takes us there.
A snake-shaped robot navigates through a small tube. It is designed to conduct rescue operations in disaster situations. Meet Korea's indigenous space technology from the country's first lunar orbiter Danuri to the homegrown space rocket Nuri. An array of homegrown scientific technologies from South Korea are showcased at the Gwacheon National Science Museum in Gwacheon, just south of Seoul. At the Korea Science and Technology Fair, South Korea's state-of-the-art technology for the future, as well as items featured at the world's biggest tech fair, the CES, are on display. There are two main parts, the cutting-edge technology pavilion and the flagship technology pavilion. At the former, people can explore Korea's scientific innovations in leading fields such as space, robots, and quantum technologies. This bio-inspired bird-shaped robot mimics how birds flap their wings. This enables it to fly with greater agility than traditional drones. Korean-developed quantum computer technology can also be found. Quantum computers are capable of solving complex problems faster than any other supercomputer.
We are currently developing a 20-qubit quantum computer with plans to achieve a 50-qubit scale by 2026.
Other technologies such as Samsung's latest OLED technologies and Kai's quadruped robots are also on display. The flagship technology pavilion is where people can explore the latest achievements in leading future industries such as bio, hydrogen, and rechargeable batteries. The Ministry of Science and ICT aims for this fair to facilitate collaborations between Korean scientists and international institutions.
This year, foreign diplomatic missions have been invited to explore our scientific achievements with the hope of potential international research collaborations between Korean and foreign scientists.
Other programs besides the main sections include lectures and forums on the latest research trends, as well as the family zone where people can experience various technologies. The Korea Science and Technology Fair 2023 runs until November 12th. 신세벽, Arirang News.
Starting this week, a ban went into effect on short selling across the South Korean stock market until the end of June next year. To break down market fluctuations and how they could shape the market in the long run, our finance correspondent Moon Hae-ryun joins us in the studio. Hi, Hae-ryun.
Good evening, Jung-min.
Evening. So what exactly is short selling and what's behind the ban?
So short selling or shorting is essentially when investors trade with borrowed shares. They do that in the hope that the price will fall later, so they can buy them back at a lower price and pocket the difference. It's a very accepted and often useful tool for investors to make money and for the market to recover to reasonable prices when the stock market or individual stock prices are overvalued. But the problem actually lies with something called naked shorting, which is an illegal practice of selling shares that might not actually exist. Ever since the local financial supervisory service set up an investigation team last year, it's inspected 51 firms on suspicion of this practice. And just a few weeks ago, the financial watchdog imposed record-high fines on 2 international investment banks. But this isn't the only reason shorting has been banned, nor is it the first. This is the 4th time that it's been prohibited, following the first back in 2008 during the global financial crisis, the second in 2011 during the European debt crisis, and the third during the COVID-19 pandemic. Kim Joo-hyun, the head of the Financial Services Committee, cited global economic uncertainty as another reason.
Market instability is increasing due to the geopolitical risks of the Israel-Hamas conflict, with the domestic stock market becoming more volatile compared to other major foreign markets.
So how has been the market responding?
So the announcement was made on Sunday evening and the market has been adjusting since. The very first day of trade after the announcement showed the country's benchmark Kospi Composite Index surging to its largest one-day rise in over 3 years. It rose by 5.66% and the tech-heavy Kosdaq by over 7%. This surge led to the activation of the Kosdaq sidecar limit, which is activated when there is a rise of more than 6% compared to the previous close. This, however, didn't last. Over the next few days, stocks saw a consecutive decline as foreign investors turned into net sellers. The sidecar limit was activated once again on Tuesday, but for the exact opposite reason from the day before, to mitigate a plunge of more than 6%. The decline showed signs of slowing across Wednesday before rising again on Thursday. Some analysts say that this volatility is a result of foreign investors leaving the market.
There's a possibility that as institutions and foreign investors are unable to short sell, they also won't be able to keep up the same proportion of going long and therefore damage the soundness of the financial market.
Others say that it's less about foreign investors and more about the psychological effects of the ban on individual investors. The fluctuations are a sign of the market stabilizing.
I think the market rise in the first day was more psychological than real because so many individual investors had negative feelings about the market from the short selling. So we saw a very high increase on the first day. And as perhaps investors looked at a longer run picture more reasonably, they decided that the prices are probably going to resettle to a lower level. So that's why we saw the prices fall on the second day.
And what does the situation look like for the market going forward?
So the truth is this ban is only temporary. The government is using this period to make improvements to the short sales system. In particular, the FSS addressed the need to level the playing field between domestic retail investors and institutional and foreign investors. I spoke to an expert about what disadvantages individuals currently face in the stock market, so let's take a listen.
The reason that current short selling system in Korea may be disadvantageous to individual investors is that, for one thing, the institutional investors, both domestic and foreign, can borrow stocks for an extended period of time, but individual investors are limited to how much time they can borrow the stocks to engage in short selling.
There are also concerns about the ban preventing the upgrade of South Korea's stock market by Morgan Stanley Capital International to developed market status. Every June, the MSCI adjusts its watch list of emerging markets and developed markets, but Seoul wasn't upgraded this year. Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho addressed these concerns, saying that the government will continue to work on reforms until next June, when the temporary ban on short sales is due to end. So we'll have to wait and see.
All right. Thank you for your explanation.
Thank you for having me.
Early winter-like conditions are back in the forecast starting tomorrow. Along with the cold showers, overall temperatures will be on a cooling trend. There will be a drastic change in daytime readings. In particular, Seoul will be dropping by about 9 degrees down to 8 degrees Celsius for the daytime. If you take a look at the satellite imagery, rain clouds are approaching the peninsula. Therefore, expect showers to start from central regions and they will gradually spread nationwide. By tomorrow morning, heavier rain clouds are expected for southern parts of the country. So the further south you are, the more rain you'll be receiving. Jeju Island will see up to 50 millimeters. Jeollanam-do and Gyeongsang-nam-do provinces will see 5 to 30. Other inland regions will see relatively less, with about 5 millimeters in the forecast. The nation will see a wide variation in morning temperatures. Seoul will start at 1 degree. Busan will be very warm at 13 degrees Celsius. More sunshine will build up for the daytime. Seoul will get up to 8 degrees. Daejeon and Gwangju 11. Busan will be topping at 15 degrees. Until next Monday, morning temperatures will stay frigid and lows will be dropping to -2 degrees next Monday. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.